going on, everybody? It's Trey Neal here with Trading Stocks, and welcome to this week's stock pick. This is where I give you guys 3 solid stocks that I think have a good chance to be bullish going into the next week. I give you all a lotto play, which is one we're going to swing for the fences a little bit more on, go for some bigger percentage gains on, and then I'm going to give you the hot sector of the week and the sleeper sector of the week, a sector that I think not enough people are talking about. If you did catch last week's episode, last week was the first week that I did this, my lotto play was MRAM. I gave you that obviously at 1077 before it opened up on Friday. Ended up at a high of 1398. So a little over a $3 move in just 3 days on my lotto pick from last week. I'll go ahead and play that clip now of me giving you all that call. I want you guys to keep an eye on MRAM going into next week. Obviously had earnings on Friday, made a massive move. We day traded this on Friday. Over on my Twitch channel, where you can watch me live day trade every single day. If you would like to watch me live day trade, link in the description down below. But shout out to myself there. This huge rip on earnings, massive volume. That completely just dwarfed the scale of the rest of this thing's volume. Never had a day anywhere near this kind of buying. And look, this thing has a history of catching good earnings. This is also earnings making a big run, and then this is a huge continue. Am I saying necessarily it's going to do another 150% move? Not really, but yeah, the history is there. There's also another earnings here where it gapped and just then continued as well. So it has a little bit of history of gapping up on earnings and continuing very, very strong. So obviously we got a banger of a lotto call last week. Hopefully you guys are excited for this week's stock picks, this week's lotto calls. If you are, hit the like button. If you're new around here, hit the red subscribe button, and let's go ahead and jump into it. So we're going to start, like I said, with 3 solid stocks for the week. This is not necessarily stocks that I'm swinging for the fences on. I don't think they're going to give you 30% next week like MRAM did, the call from last week. But they're just stocks that I think have a very solid chance to continue with bullish momentum into the upcoming week. As always, please do not just go run out and buy these stocks. That's not what I'm telling you by this at all. Just giving you guys some heads up on what I think has potential to be bullish. Do your own research. Do your own, make sure you have your own edge in your trades before you go trade anything. First stock, NVIDIA. I do not own this stock, but I do think it is a stock that has a great chance. I mean, just kind of obviously here, like I don't even know if I need to get too technical here. Look, hugely strong stock. Just broke blue sky breakout highs, just broke all-time highs. I think NVIDIA has a great chance to have strong continuation in next week. Definitely needs to be on your watch list next week. Like I said, I don't really need to sit here and break anything down. It did just have earnings. It did gap up out of earnings. Potentially you wait for some kind of dip back down to close this gap. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. I actually have a alert from this gap down here, but obviously we're nowhere near that now. So I'm going to set my buy alert actually right above this gap here, potentially waiting for a pullback to long. But NVIDIA, NVDA, November Victor, Delta, Alpha, how did I forget A, is the number one solid stock pick going into next week. Next one, kind of along the same lines, Apple. Now, I will be honest, I always do this. I do own Apple. I have owned Apple for years. I think it's a stock that everybody should own, but once again, I'm very biased on that. My cost basis on Apple is sub 40. I've owned it since back here in 2017 potentially. But yeah, Apple, same kind of story. I don't need to get too technical. We need to sit here and break things down too much. Just broke a high pivot, extremely strong. They just announced they're going to release an autonomous vehicle by 2023, I think they said. Or was it 2025? They just announced late last week plans to build an electric vehicle, an autonomous driving vehicle. Obviously, just rocket shipping the stock. Extremely strong. There's no reason to think that this isn't going to have strong continuation in the next week. So Alpha Papa Lima, Apple, also have this on your watch list into next week. And once again, I am biased on this. I do own this stock. I want to make that clear. The last solid pick of the day before we get into our big lottery pick stock is Roblox. Once again, this is actually a relatively recent IPO. IPO this year, March, but had earnings and just blitzing out of earnings. I mean, it was a sub $80 stock at earnings. About a month, not even a month, like 2 weeks later, it's up to 134, touching a high of 138.77. It's just an extremely strong stock. One you should have on your watch list going into next week. One that I think has a good chance of strong bullish follow through going into next week. So that is Romeo Bravo Lima X-Ray. So your three kind of solid stocks, your three nice huge big movers that I think have good solid chance of continuation in next week: NVIDIA, Apple, Roblox. Now let's go ahead and get into maybe what everybody's waiting for, my lottery pick for the week. Remember I just gave it away. MRAM was the lottery pick from last week. Ended up doing a 30% plus run in 3 days. I'm not saying that will always happen, but sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But this week, my lottery pick is GGPI, Gores Guggenheim. This company actually is a special acquisition company that is taking an electric vehicle stock public. So this isn't really, it's not yet, but it's trading like an EV stock. It's trading with the EV sector, the electric vehicle sector, which is obviously a very, very strong sector right now. And it's giving you a nice pullback. I love gap close reversals. Gap close reversals are my favorite swing trade setup. I do not own this stock yet. I actually kind of missed this dip on this day. I actually had an alert set out on it, but unfortunately, I didn't see the alert trigger to potentially enter a swing down here at 13 when it closed this gap. But GGPI, Golf Papa India, will be my lottery pick stock going into next week. Once again, I gave you NVIDIA, Apple, Roblox. Those three are pretty solid. They're obviously huge companies that are very solid stocks. They've got a pretty good chance to continue into next week, right? This one, not so much, but that's why it's a lottery pick, right? It could give you bigger gains. It's kind of a bigger risk, a bigger reward type pick for the week. So GGPI is that. Now, into the sectors. I'm going to give you a hot sector. The sector I think will continue to be the hottest into next week. And then the sleeper sector, the one I think people aren't talking about enough. Now, you could probably tell what I think the hot sector is going to be just from the picks that I gave you, but I'm going with tech for my hot sector this week. That's your Apple, your NVIDIA. Obviously, those are two that I gave you, but there's others. I said there's others, like you don't know that. But Facebook, Google, your Amazon, just all these stocks. Technology sector is very, very hot right now. They're all flying. They're all pushing. Most of them are pushing all-time highs like this. Had a really strong week last week. The technology sector did. So that is going to be that kind of continuation into this week is going to be my sleeper sector, my hot sector for the week. The sleeper sector is actually going to be healthcare. These are your AbbVies, your Pfizers, your Modernas. Moderna's actually a little bit not so much, kind of getting crushed. But these kind of stocks, Pfizer isn't exactly one that's pushing highs, but it's had a very kind of slow last 1 month performance. If you look at sector comparison charts, it's had a slow 1 month previous 1 month performance, but a very, very strong 6 and 3 month performance has healthcare. So I think that means that maybe healthcare has been kind of cooling down a little bit over the last month after a huge run. So people are kind of starting to sleep on it a little bit. Thus why it's my sleeper sector for the week. And I think it might be time for you all to start researching, looking into some potential healthcare picks going to the next week. And these sector picks are kind of into the next week, especially the sleeper ones, because they're sleepers. I don't necessarily expect them to take off this week, but might be start time to research some of those, potentially start scaling into some positions and some of that if you find things that meet your kind of trade style, your kind of trade setup within that sector. So those are the stock picks for the week. NVIDIA, Apple, Roblox, the solid picks, GGPI. This is my lotto pick this week. MRAM was my lotto pick last week. Had pretty good performance out of that. We'll see going into next weekend how GGPI does this week. Remember, this is the week of Thanksgiving, too, so you will have closed markets on Thursday, and then Friday we have a half market day. So do keep that in mind, too, with these kind of stock picks for the week. It is a shorter week in the market, so we'll have to see. Make sure you all keep that in mind. But yeah, should be a good week, should be a good time. Maybe a little bit slower into a holiday week like this, but yeah, hopefully you all enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all enjoy time with your family or whoever it may be that you hang out with, and hopefully you all make a lot of money in the stock market this week. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I will catch you all in the next one.